Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. Today I'm going to be working with my inks. I have my palette here and there's not very much yellow left, a little bit of the red and the blue, but I want to use this up because I want to clean up my palette and start fresh. So I thought what I would do is to paint a little floral still life for you. It's almost feeling like spring here in Northwest Connecticut. We've been having some unseasonably warm weather and the daffodils are starting to poke up. They're about 3 or 4 inches high and the snowdrops are coming up. But what I wanted to share with you today is how you can take a beautiful classical painting, and the one I'm going to be working with today is a bouquet of peonies by Fantin Latour. And if you look at an earlier post on my Facebook page here, you'll see that painting, and it's a stunning picture of a bouquet of peonies. Fantin Latour was an incredible flower painter, one of my most favorites. He worked around the turn of the century and studied at the Beaux-Arts in Paris, and kind of affiliated himself with many of the members of the so-called Impressionists. He's a little more traditional than they were, but his paintings still have some of that impressionistic quality that's just so lovely. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this little picture of peonies, and I'm going to show you how you can easily take some inspiration, like a beautiful painting that you love, and copy it and turn it into a note card, and then you can send it to somebody and let them know that you're thinking about them, and they will be absolutely delighted to have that note card from you. So to get started, I'm going to get out my trimmer, and I'm starting from scratch here. So for my card base, I'm going to be using the Very Vanilla Thick. That's this cardstock. All of the things that I mention here today will be in a materials list that I will post after the video. So if you're interested in getting any of these things, you'll be able to find them easily. So I'm going to score this on the short side at 4 1/4. And then cut it down to 5 1/2. And that's going to give me 2 nice card bases. You can go ahead and give that a burnish. There we go. Okay, and then for my mat today, I've got a piece of the Pebbled Path cardstock, and I'm going to cut this to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to cut this at 5 1/4. By 4. So that's going to look something like that. Okay, and then for my artwork, I'm going to use the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And a full sheet of this measures 5 by 7. So I'm going to keep the 5-inch size, and I'm just going to cut this down to 3 3/4. So these are my proportions. Something like that. And of course I've got a matching envelope for the berry vanilla. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to pull out my glass mat. Let's see if I can get this on camera. I haven't looked lately to see if the glass mat is now available for ordering, actually. If anybody out there listening knows if the glass mat is now available to order, let me know. I'm curious. All right, now I'm just checking my settings. I want to make sure that you can see and hear me. And Houdini, of course. Have to be able to hear Houdini. I'm just checking my settings. All right, that looks good. Okay, so just going to clean that up a minute. All right, so I'm going to do a very quick pencil sketch. So I'm going to zoom you in for that. Not that much. There we go. All right, so basically this is a very simple picture. It's actually an oil painting. And so he's got the bouquet is on a little wooden table that's sort of coming into the picture plane, something like that. He's got his vase, which is sort of centrally. I'm going to have to pull this down a little bit, lower that. Okay, so there's the vase. And then he's got this big, beautiful open peony here. Now the proportion of my paper is a little more upright than his. His composition leans a little more towards a square, but I will try to make up for that as best as I can. All right, so that's the rough composition. If you can't see that very well, don't worry. In a couple of minutes, you'll be able to see it much better. I'm wondering where my kneaded erasers are. And I suspect that a little black cat may have had something to do with the disappearance of the kneaded erasers, but we will continue. So I just want to get a little more of the anatomy and the perspective on some of these flowers. So I'm paying attention to the direction that the blossoms are facing. I want to make sure that I make note of all the various directions. And you know, when you copy from a master painter like this, they've already done the hard work for you. So you can just use that beautiful composition that they've worked out and get right to the painting. It's all about the composition. All right, I think that's enough information for the moment. I'm just taking another look to see if I can find the erasers, and I don't see them, which is not actually a surprise. Okay, never mind. I'm going to grab a water painter. I'm just going to use the medium-sized one. And I'm going to zoom you out a little bit so you can see the palette. Okay. And I've also got my spritzer. I'm going to go ahead and give my paper a light misting. This is the beauty of the glass palette and why I like them so much. And it's not just regular glass, by the way. This is a tempered glass, so it's going to withstand some rough treatment. I'm not going to say that you, excuse me, that you couldn't break it, but it wouldn't be the easiest thing in the world. Now the background on this painting is very interesting. It looks like he's used kind of a burnt umber to scumble over the back of the canvas. So that's a kind of a cool dark brown. So I'm just going to mix all my colors together and see if I can approximate that. So right now my color here is a little bit on the warm side. I'm going to add a little more blue. Now we're getting close to it. With these three colors, you can mix any color combination you like. Just find yourself a good primary red, yellow, and blue, and you'll be all set to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and wash around my background, get this started. And then the table top is just a little bit warmer. Oops, not that warm. Okay. Okay, so that's my beginning. I'm going to add some of this color into the shadow areas. And I'm thinking a little bit more about the actual shapes and drawing of the flowers now. Okay, so that is the sort of the wet and wet passages established. And at this point, I'm going to be looking for some more edges. So while the paper is still wet, you get these kind of loose, washy areas, which are great for the shadows. But as things begin to emerge out into the light, you want to get your edges a little more crisp. So that is my basic underpainting. Move this up so it's a little more centrally located. I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in now so that you can see some of the details a little bit better. Okay, that's not where I want it. There we go. Okay, something like that. All right, so the peonies are actually a kind of a creamy color with a few touches of crimson, and that reminds me of my Festiva Maxima peonies that I have growing out in the front of Dandelion Cottage, and that I wouldn't surprise me one bit if those were the flowers that he was painting, because that is a very old heirloom variety. And basically they're like a white that gets a little bit creamy as they get older, and you get these beautiful little flicks of crimson here and there. And also the center of the peonies has a little bit of warmth to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started. Just adding a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red. The water-based inks are dye colors, so they're extremely saturated colors. You only need the tiniest bit to get these very pale shades of pink. So I'm blotting up the excess as I go. I'm going to need some green. So for that, I'm just going to mix my yellow, some blue, The greens that were used at the turn of the century are very different from the greens that we've grown accustomed to today. And it was really quite amazing, the effects that they could create with a very limited palette. All right, now my paper is extremely saturated at this point, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my heat tool out because of the video, and I'm going to give that a little bit of a drying out. So to do that, I'm going to mute the sound, so bear with me for just a moment. Okay, so now it's still a little bit damp, but it's mostly dry, and I should be able to get some more edges on there. So I'm just checking my settings here. I see Kelly. Hey, Kelly. And Kit. Oh, okay. So Kit says she checked on the Glass Mat Studio, but doesn't see any updates. All right. Well, I will check that out after the video today and see if I can see anything. All right. So, so now I've got a quick little sketch, and it's pretty rough. It's pretty abstract, and that's fine. That's certainly enough. But if you want, at this stage, you could certainly go back in now and put some more drawing lines. So let's do a little bit of that. I'm going to go back to my dark green and get some of these beautiful sepals underneath my blossoms here. My stem. You could certainly use a smaller brush for this, but I'm not going to stop right now. So I'm just picking out some of the more obvious leaf shapes. I'm not trying to do a replicate. I'm just trying to get an impression of an impression, if you follow what I'm saying. So this is the sort of painting, by the way, that looks better when you look at it from a distance, it should, all the elements should start to come together. And if you work in a small space and you cannot get up and away from your painting while you're working, then at least get a little hand mirror, and you'll be able to get an alternate view of what it is that you're looking at. And of course the mirror will increase the distance so that you can ensure that your painting is coming together as you work. There are also some little blue flowers here. I'm not sure what they are. Actually, I can't think of the name. If anybody knows the names of those blue flowers, I've actually grown those, but I don't grow them every year, so I'm not that familiar with them, but they are annuals, I believe. Anyway, I'm probably telling you a story, but if I think of it, I'll say. Are they bachelor buttons? They might be bachelor buttons. I'll have to look that up too. Okay, I think that's enough for the leaves. And then a couple of little places in my peonies. So I'm going to mix up a kind of a neutral tone here that I can use as a little shadow color inside some of these delicate petals. It's a little too dark. So beautifully painted. If you're not familiar with Fantin Latour's work, go ahead and do a Google search and then look at images, and you will find dozens and dozens of beautiful floral still lifes. A couple of portraits and landscapes as well, but it's his still lifes that are just so beautiful. And now I'm just going back in with some darker colors to heighten the effect. Paying attention to the overall composition. Couple little details, not too much. I don't want this to get too picky. This vase has a little bit of texture, it looks like, on it. And it looks like, I don't know, it seems like it's got a little bit of a blue cast to it. So I'm going to add just a little bit of blue. Excuse me. All right, I think that's about it. Just gonna let this dry for a second. So, put my brush away, move my palette. All right, so I'm going to begin by adhering my, oh, actually, I want to do one more thing. I'm looking for my Pebbled Path ink pad. Because I'm using a Pebbled Path cardstock, oh whoops, that one's not opened yet. Hang on. Well, I don't know where the other one is. I'm just going to use this for now. Oh, there it is, right in front of me, of course. Where else? So, because I'm using the Pebbled Path cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and use my sponge to just go around the edges and make sure that there's no white edges showing at the side of the excuse me, it's the side of the paper. All right, now go ahead and put a fine bead of glue close to the edge, but not on the edge. A little bit in the middle. You don't need a lot of glue. This glue is very strong. Get that centered. That looks pretty good. Now, of course, if you wanted to get a little bit fancier, you could add a little gold border, or you could use the deckled rectangle frame dies to create a beautiful edge. But I want to keep this very simple today, just to give you some ideas of how to create some beautiful note cards in time for spring. Now, if you wanted to make a little gift box of watercolor note cards like this for somebody for Mother's Day, or for Easter, their birthday, whatever the event may be. This would make a really lovely gift. Sorry, I know I'm off camera here. I'll get back on in a second. I'm a little too zoomed in. There we go. Now, if there's a particular sentiment that you'd like to add to your card, you could do that with a label or a little tag, would be really cute, or just stamp something on the inside if you'd like to have a stamped sentiment. So I'm going to look and see what sentiments I have handy here to see if there's something that would make sense for this card. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Now I do have some of the stamp sets from pre-order. Let's see if there's one here. Okay, here's one. This is from Thoughtful Expressions, and it says, "You're in my thoughts today." So I like that. I just want a kind of a gentle, soft little card. And I think this will be perfect. I haven't even opened this up yet. This stamp set features a beautiful hummingbird. And next week, I am going to be traveling to Houston, Texas for On Stage. So I will be away for nearly 2 weeks because immediately following that, I'm going to be going home with my good friend Lisa McGrew, and we're going to be offering a workshop using this stamp set, and I'm really kind of excited about it because my portion of the collaboration is to instruct the people on how to paint a hummingbird. And Lisa is basically the queen of fancy folds, so she's going to have something wonderful for everybody to participate in, no doubt. So, okay, so I've got my sentiment lined up, and I'm actually going to do a practice. I want to make sure that this is going to read all right since it's a brand new stamp, and that looks good. And I'm going to put this right in the center, a little bit closer to the top. There's my sentiment, and I think what I'll do, since I have the stamps out, I'm going to go ahead and add this little sprig of flowers because it's so pretty. Cheryl says, "Did you get the zinnia suite? I love that paper." Yes, I did. I'm saving that for as we get a little bit closer to gardening time. I have a very, very special offering with the zinnia suite. So stay tuned for that. I think you're going to love it. There we go. So that's very cute. And by the way, let's not forget the envelope, okay? So we can put this little sprig on the flap of the envelope. All right. So there is what I would call a quick and easy hand-painted watercolor note card that would be good for just about any occasion. All right, so there's the inside There's the outside, there's the envelope. Make sure you take a peek at Fantin Latour's Peony painting. I think you'll love looking at that, and also his other paintings of still life and flowers. He was really quite extraordinary. Wonderful, wonderful painter, and any of his pictures would actually provide amazing inspiration to do one of these cute little greeting cards based on a quick study of one of his works. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I made you feel a little bit braver about trying to do something like this. My copy is not fussy, okay? There's not a lot of drawing, there's not a lot of careful or rendering, you know, it's just a quick impression, and that's all you need. And if there was a place on here that you made a boo-boo that you wanted to cover up, then just put a label over it, or an embellishment, or whatever, a piece of ribbon. So don't worry about perfection. The idea here is just to have fun doing it and to give somebody a beautiful card. So thank you so much for watching. Next week, Watercolor Wednesday is going to be suspended because I'll be heading to Houston, and depending on where I find myself, I may tune in real quick, but we're not going to have a regular episode. Same goes for Paper Crafting Thursday, but I will try to check in with you all and show you where I am and what I'm up to. So stay well, stay happy, stay creative, and I will see you next time.